Thank you for tuning in to the AAU TV Mid-Week news, coming to you from the headquarters of the Association of African Universities in Accra, Ghana. My name is Maame Ekua Otuakoa Nyame. With me in the studio are
Miss Deladem Dotsey.
And I am Agyeman Darko.
And now the headlines on higher education. Mauritania unveils research and innovation strategy. And also Students' COVID Act becomes outreach tool to Kampala slums.
And in our health news, chewing food better helps dodge weight gain. And again, vaccinated women pass COVID-19 antibodies to breastfeeding babies, study reveals.
All right, we're glad you made time to join us on AAU TV News. Stay with us for bringing more news after a short break. Stay with us.
Welcome back from the break. And the West African nation of Mauritania has unveiled its first 5-year strategy starting 2022 to 2026 to use research and innovation as a lever for promoting national development in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
The West African nation of Mauritania has unveiled its first 5-year strategy from 2022 to 2026 to use research and innovation as a lever for promoting national development in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The strategy to promote national development through research and innovation was prepared by the Organization of Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific States and funded by the European Union. It was unveiled and launched in Newport and online on 16th December 2021. The strategy aims at making research and innovation a lever for socio-economic transformation, employability for university graduates, and achieving SDGs, along with implementing the objectives of the science, technology, and innovation strategy for Africa. To achieve this, the strategy calls for strengthening private sector participation, promoting open science and open innovation, along with building bridges between research, industry, society, and higher education, as well as fostering the mobility of researchers within the research and innovation ecosystem and reducing the gender gap, especially in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM subjects. The strategy also includes the strengthening of the research and innovation governance system, support for the incubation and emergence of startups, facilitating the setup of University Industry Alliance, and promoting international cooperation to support the reform of the national research and innovation system. In addition, the strategy calls for increasing the budget allocated to research and innovation to between 0.3% and 0.6% of gross domestic product (GDP) by 2026, compared to approximately 0.1% currently. The AU target is 1% of gross domestic product.
Well, there we have it. Mauritania is set to leverage on a 5-year strategy that is built around research and innovation to promote national development. And I must say that the national development includes socio-economic transformation and also graduate employability, among others. But all this weight is being put on research and innovation, and currently no African country is spending 1% of its GDP on research. Mauritania, for instance, is only spending approximately 0.1%, but the strategy seeks to improve it to 0.3% to 0.6%. What I want us to talk about is certain indicators the strategy has put in place to ensure its success. So let's start with private sector participation. How exactly is this going to aid in achieving the goal?
First of all, I would say we are made to understand that the goal of this strategy is to use research and innovation to promote national development in this line with the Sustainable Development Goals. First of all, we are made to understand that the goal of this strategy is to use research and innovation to promote national development in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. And to better explain the role of private sectors, let me use those who produce the car industry as a case study.
Okay.
So we have private companies such as Kia, Tesla, and then Mercedes producing electric vehicles which do not produce greenhouse gases that will lead to climate change. So in this case, these private companies, through research and innovation, have developed vehicles to tackle SDG Goal 13, which focuses on climate change. And by so doing, these private companies also create job opportunities for individuals, which is one part of the SDG Goal 8, which talks about decent jobs. Yes.
Okay, Agyeman, private sector participation.
I mean, basically, you have an economy which is run by the major part of commercialization, which is the private sector, individual people having their own capital to make goods, demand and supply and all that. Government plays a very little role, just trying to create an enabling environment to help the private sector thrive. If you really want to reduce unemployment in the economy, you need to impress upon and the aid of the private sector, because they are the ones that created jobs. More jobs are created by these individuals, and they create the opportunity for these young people. So I mean, you mentioned these mega industries like the automobiles. Like in Ghana, we have the tankers. We have lots of them all over Africa.
That's true.
Who are making it in various ways. Ecosystem drives, recycling jobs, and now they're using plastics to make bricks. Some using plastics to make fuels. These are all private sector activities, and if government supports these people, they now create opportunities to now create employment for young people in the economy. So they have seen the private sector as one key aspect of ensuring that they achieve the strategy for research and innovation.
Okay. You know, another tool that was mentioned was science and innovation. How exactly does that also help us achieve that goal?
First of all, I would want us to understand what open science and innovation is.
Okay.
Open science and innovation refers to the effort to make the results of publicly funded research more widely accessible to the public.
Okay.
Now, this becomes a tool because, one, it minimizes time and cost in doing the same research which has already been done with results available. And I know we all understand that. And secondly, I'll talk about it promotes partnership between researchers to achieve goals.
Okay.
And lastly, for instance, let me link this to the SDG Goal 3, which talks about good health and well-being. You know, during this COVID-19 pandemic, it has made researchers develop lots of vaccines. So if researchers make their research open, other countries can learn from it and develop their own vaccines, which saves time, cost, and also promotes partnerships to eliminate COVID-19 faster. I think that could help.
Okay, and now my final point for discussion, I would want to find out from Agyeman, in what ways would building bridges between industry, society, and higher education also influence the goal?
You know, we kind of see that we're at par. You know, higher education is now not being felt as how it should be felt as the prime agent of transformation in everywhere it may be. Society has been secluded. Society has its own knowledge. Higher education produces its own knowledge. And then we have industry also doing their own thing with their own experience. Normally, it was supposed to be a link between industry, higher education, training talent to be creative, innovative, and solution-oriented for industry. Because education, from the Greek word educo, means that educated, or let's say impacted for lively solutions. So if I've been transformed or I've been educated by the university or the higher education, if I go out there in society, I'm of use because I've been given all the nuggets needed to transform. And also the industry that I'm in, also I create solutions. So higher education, solutions through industry, making life better in society. That is how the bridge is supposed to be. Today we find that these bridges have been weakened and have been broken. So we don't see knowledge well transferred from higher education to industry. And society suffers. You go out there, you see people, and can't we create a solution for this? See sanitation. I mean, it's very bad. Beaches have been littered, open defecation. We have lots of things going wrong in society. As of, where is the link? There's a missing link now between the university or higher education to industry and to society.
Okay.
And that's why we have to rebuild these bridges so that society will feel comfortable. Like in other advanced countries like the USA, the UK, Germany, Spain, you see things going on very well in society. It's because the link has been firm and the bridges are stronger. In Africa, it's a little bit bleak because these bridges are broken. So we don't see the transformation and innovation from higher education to industry to society.
Okay. Well, bridges between industry, society, and education must be bridged for society to feel comfortable. Agyeman, over to you.
So in our next story, we're taking you all the way to Kampala slums where very few wear masks and let alone practice social distancing. And the argument has largely been that you cannot really worry about contracting COVID-19 when you don't have anything to eat and you are starving all the way in the Kampala slums. Let's see what happened there.
The students, mainly from the Margaret Trowell School of Industrial and Fine Arts at Makerere University, Uganda, have crafted art pieces themed around the coronavirus disease and its prevention, and are using the drawings to demonstrate to the shanty town occupant why they still need to wear the nose mask, social distance, and take a jab in the fight against COVID-19. A student of Industrial Art and Design at Makerere University and one of the initiative's leaders, Agyeman Sembataya, acknowledged that the students knew that art can be powerful and that influenced their decision to use their visual creative prowess to improve awareness around COVID-19 and to play a role in the fight against the pandemic. Sembataya mentioned that they are specifically targeting young people and the vulnerable youth in Kampala slums who did not get a chance to go to school. He added that we want to encourage them to continue to wash their hands, keep their nose mask on and social distance, at least until the coronavirus crisis is averted. Ministry of Health report indicates that 127,877 Ugandans have contracted COVID-19, while 3,265 have died since last year. But the pandemic has affected slum dwellers and young people most. The majority of them are a hand-to-mouth lot who live off their ability to move to town centers every day, said Herbert Mukisa, a community leader in the Kawempe division. They have not had adequate food to eat since the coronavirus hit and government imposed lockdowns to stem its spread, he added.
There we have it from Kampala, having a very unique way of creating the awareness to people living in the slums about COVID-19 and how to keep yourself safe. But what do you really find of other creative ways how we can communicate the risks of COVID-19 to people who are really in deplorable states and really don't want to listen to anything at all? What should be done other unique ways of doing this?
You know, I wouldn't want to talk much actually, but first of all, I would like to recommend the students for coming up with such a great or a creative initiative to fight against COVID-19. But then, you know, who would have thought art could play a role, you know, a vital role in fighting the virus? So in fighting against the virus, we've had creative, innovative ideas springing up, such as the automatic hand washing machine and the use of face shield and then others. But one interesting strategy I found in the fight against the COVID was in Kerala and then India. You know, in these countries, umbrellas were distributed to residents as a way of promoting physical distancing. So let's say two adults will hold open standard standard size umbrellas, which keeps them at least 1 meter apart from each other. So you know, I find this really quite interesting, and I think Maame Ekua would add more for us.
Actually, okay, I would not necessarily add up, but I would want to first of all commend the students for such great work. I think it is so thoughtful and an awesome way of creating awareness. But the truth is, we really cannot speak to the hearing of a hungry person. And the issue of hunger in Uganda is one that can never go unnoticed. In 2004 to 2009 alone in Uganda, about 110,000 children lost their lives to hunger and malnutrition. Ask yourself, how many children have lost their lives due to COVID? I mean, COVID hit in the past 2 years, and currently Uganda has lost over 3,000 lives. It is nothing compared to the number of lives they've lost to hunger. So I think in our quest to coming up with more educative ways where we can create awareness, why don't we rather advocate for the foundation of the problems to be tackled? People are not adhering to COVID-19 because, the protocols because they are hungry. You don't expect a hungry person to use a little they have to buy nose mask. Ask yourself, are nose masks free in Uganda? No, I don't think they are free in any part of the world. And we are talking about people who are hungry. So definitely they are going to choose their lives and their hunger over COVID-19. You know, in Ghana, when COVID hit initially, people actually granted interviews and said they would choose their lives than to just sleep at home and say they're afraid of COVID-19. I think I perfectly understand what they're going through. But, you know, we can make excuses for the nose mask. We can make excuses for the hand sanitizers. But I think for the COVID-19, the vaccines, no matter what we say, we really cannot make any excuses for them because they are free. So perhaps they should advocate for these people to rather go in for the vaccine and stop telling them to buy nose masks and hand sanitizers because they do not have the money to do that. So I think we should rather address the issue on the ground than just telling them that go and get automatic hand washing machine. What money are they using to buy that, Jemima?
Yes,
what money are they using that to buy?
I think it gets worse than that, though, but we'll just bring you more on health news at the short break. Stay with us.
In our health news, a new study has revealed that oral stimuli, which are linked with the duration of tasting liquid food in the mouth and the duration of chewing, play a positive role in increasing energy expenditure after food intake.
Slow eating and thorough chewing help prevent obesity and weight gain, a view popularized a century back and tested afterward in sporadic scientific studies. Typically, the chewing process reportedly enhances the energy expenditure associated with the metabolism of food and increases intestinal motility, all summing up to an increased heat generation in the body after food intake, known as diet-induced thermogenesis (DIT). Diet-induced thermogenesis, also known as thermic effect of food consumption, increases energy expenditure above the basal fasting level, a factor known to prevent weight gain. Earlier, the team found that slow eating and thorough chewing not only increased diet-induced thermogenesis, but also enhanced blood circulation in the splanchnic region of the abdomen. Researchers designed their new study to exclude the effect of food bolus by involving liquid food. The entire study included 3 trials conducted on different days. In the control trial, they asked the volunteers to swallow 20 ml liquid test food normally every 30 seconds. In the second trial, the volunteers kept the same test food in their mouth for 30 seconds without chewing, thereby allowing prolonged tasting before swallowing. Lastly, in the third trial, they studied the effect of both chewing and tasting. The volunteers chewed the 20 ml test food for 30 seconds at a frequency of once per second and then swallowed it. The results of this well-designed study turned up that there was no difference in hunger and fullness scores among the trials. However, researchers Hayashi describes we found DIT or energy production increased after consuming a meal, and it increased with the duration of each taste stimulation and the duration of chewing. This means, irrespective of the influence of the food bolus, oral stimuli corresponding to the duration of tasting food in the mouth and the duration of chewing increase DIT.
So that is an interesting story right there, which is talking about how chewing food better helps dodge weight gain. But I would want us to talk about how one's approach to chewing affects the body, Agyeman.
You know, interestingly, with the issue of chewing food, some people may want to just ignore it or, let's say, underestimate it, but it goes a long way to affect your body and how you live and live very well. For example, you know, chewing well plays a key role in digestion.
Okay.
If you chew very well, you have bolus of food in your mouth, well masticated, goes through your alimentary canal, and the enzymes are able to break it down very well because they've been well broken down.
Yeah.
But if you don't break down food very well, it will take some time for us to break food down again.
Yeah.
Now, let's move to the issue of obesity. Obesity is also a side effect if you don't chew food so well. And you may wonder, how can that happen? Because obesity is about consumption of so much carbohydrates and sugar-filled foods, and how perhaps your body consumes so much and cannot break them down effectively because of your poor sedentary lifestyle. And to an extent, you gain weight.
Okay.
But with chewing, the more you chew, there's a process that occurs we call the thermic effect of food consumption. The thermic is heat, the thermal energy. So the more you consume food, or let's say you chew food, there's some heat energy processed in there. Now that heat occurs in your body because your body undergoes stimuli. I chew, my jaws are moving, and through my vertebra, there's some movement. So I'm chewing through my head. Blood circulates because I'm chewing food right in my jaw part. And I create heat in my jaw that burns my fat in a way. But if you chew so faster, and then you have so much of the food not well broken down, masticated in your body, then at that point your body went through less stimuli, or let's say created less heat energy. You have all the food in you. In that case, what else do you want to do? You want to go to bed, or let's say go and do something else. You are likely to grow obese, or your chances of going obese are high because you just consume so fastly, so grab the food and all that, and you couldn't break it down and produce heat energy. That's basically what the study says. But it hasn't been explored further. So I would say there are more room to bring out the essence in how chewing food slowly or faster can affect obesity. But to that point, you are exposed to obesity.
I was very glad you said this hasn't been explored further, because I was wondering why such great information really isn't out there. Because when you pick up your phone and you Google the causes of obesity, you never find this. I have read at length and I haven't found this yet. But I think in all, whether the study is proven or not, chewing slowly and chewing faster, if you have tried the two, you yourself would tell that when you chew slowly, you actually feel very good. Sometimes when you chew too fast, you feel very uncomfortable. Sometimes it even affects your breathing and all. So I think basically this is a good one.
Okay. So moving on, women vaccinated against COVID-19 transfer SARS-CoV-2 antibodies to their breastfed infants, potentially giving their babies passive immunity against coronavirus, according to a new study.
Women vaccinated against COVID-19 transfer SARS-CoV-2 antibodies to their breastfed infants, potentially giving their babies passive immunity against the coronavirus, according to University of Massachusetts AMSET's research. This research is the first to detect SARS-CoV-2 antibodies in stool samples from infants of vaccinated mothers, says lead author Vignesh Narayanaswamy. This is really important because women want to know whether their babies have these antibodies, and our study shows that antibodies are being transferred via breast milk. Providing this compelling evidence is motivation for women to continue breastfeeding after they receive the vaccine. 30 lactating women, most of them healthcare workers, were enrolled in the study. They received the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine between January and April 2021. The women provided breast milk samples before they were vaccinated across 2 to 3 weeks after their first vaccine dose and across 3 weeks after their second dose. They also gave samples of their blood spotted on cards 19 days after the first dose and 21 days after the second dose. Infant stool samples were collected 21 days after the mother's second vaccination. Pre-pandemic samples of breast milk, dried blood spots, and infant stools were used as controls for the study. Women who did feel sick from the vaccine was associated with greater antibodies in the infant stool. Okyere says, so you might have felt badly, but that was a benefit for your infant. The study, Okyere says, received no specific funding and was partially driven by the participants themselves, who were familiar with Okyere's wide-ranging breast milk research, including the New Mom's Wellness Study and BRC gene mutation research that Nare Anaswamy focuses on. Findings shows that even if you have COVID, there is a benefit for women to get the vaccine.
So that is another interesting one, looking at how vaccinated women pass COVID-19 antibodies to breastfeeding babies. I would want to start with Maame Ekua. Please, what do you make of this study?
You know, I'd want to say that basically people get COVID-19 antibodies in two ways. One, you get it if you've been infected with COVID and have recovered.
Okay.
And then the other is when you're taking the COVID-19 vaccine. But this study is also bringing something new to light, where these babies have never been infected with COVID, and neither have they been vaccinated, but they get antibodies.
Yes.
It's basically saying that mothers who have taken their COVID-19 jabs sort of transfer their antibodies to their kids while they are breastfeeding them. And I think it's an amazing one, because I was asking myself, you know, somewhere last year, COVID-19 vaccinations were made available to children who are 5 years and above.
Yes.
Now, what happens to children who are 0 to 4 years?
Yes.
And I think this is just a great one, where mothers are able to transfer their antibodies to their children, thereby giving them partial immunity to COVID. I think it's a great one.
Okay, Agyeman.
You know, the insight here is that, you know, so women who are not used to providing their kids with breast milk should now have a rethink, because you know, if you're used to using all those how do you call it? Well, outmade. Sorry about that. I don't know how to say that.
Artificial milk.
I shouldn't say that. But I think it's very important, because unlike women who are not used to giving their children breast milk, should now have a rethink, because if you use artificial milk for your children, then perhaps you're preventing them from getting that antibodies that you can transfer to them. But science has made it very possible that you can transfer these antibodies to your children, to your kids, through breastfeeding. That makes like that kill two birds with one stone, you know. So it's imperative that if you're not used to doing that, then go back, and it doesn't matter who you are, give your children breast milk.
Yes. You know, I've actually encountered a few pregnant women who actually did not want to take their COVID-19 vaccine, which I think is a bad one, because if women who have taken their vaccine are able to give antibodies to their children, then I think you are doing yourself a disservice and you're harming your kid as well. So we could also use this as a platform to sort of motivate women out there who are pregnant or who have plans to get pregnant anytime soon to take their COVID-19 vaccine.
Okay.
I have plans to get pregnant.
Yes, plans to get pregnant. You know, that statement got me thinking.
Okay, well, that is all for the news. And in wrapping up, let's take a quick recap of our headlines. On higher education, Mauritania unveils research and innovation strategy. And also, Students' COVID Act becomes outreach tool to Kampala stamps.
And in our health news, chewing food better helps dodge weight gain. And again, vaccinated women pass COVID-19 antibodies to breastfeeding babies 35.
And now, thank you very much for staying with us. My name is Maame Ekua Otuakoa Nyame.
And I am Miss Deladem Dotsey.
My name is Agyeman, and have a safe time. Enjoy our programs. Take care and bye.